Hi everyone, welcome back to another Graflex video. Today I thought we'd be looking at how to make your Graflex screen accurate for two of the most popular models, the A New Hope version and the Empire Strikes Back version. I've also got here Force Awakens and Rise of Skywalker, but I won't talk about those in this video. The first thing is, as you can see, obviously these are all canonically the same lightsaber hilt, but there's significant differences in appearance from one movie to the next. So we're going to be taking a look at, let's say you've bought yourself a Graflex replica from, I don't know, 89 sabers, KR sabers, etc. And you want to build it so it's sort of accurate to episode 4 or 5. Where do you start? What other parts do you need? How do you configure it to look accurate? So I'm hoping to be able to answer all those questions today. So I'm going to take these and put them to the side because we won't need them at the moment. And we're going to start with episode 4, A New Hope. So this one is fairly straightforward to convert. So you take your Graflex replica and you'd notice that there's a red button on top with this thing that's called a beer tab. And we're going to leave these alone. And on the bottom, there should be this glass eye. Now, if you've bought this as a replica, the chances are that this glass eye is not going to be accurate for this model. And that's because usually the standard glass eye is known as an ink glass eye. If you look at this one, it's sort of a different shape. I'll compare. Here you can see that the one on the left is the ink glass eye. It's a little bit more rounded, and so the aperture that goes in is a little bit more curved and shallow in comparison to what's known as the Fulmer glass eye that has a much sharper bevel slanting in like a funnel. And this Fulmer glass eye is what's accurate for A New Hope, not the standard ink glass eye that you get with most replicas. So this is a fairly easy upgrade. You can get these from Roman Props. You can get them from the Graflex shop. I'm not sure if KR Saber sells them individually. He might do. So just check. Yeah, it's easy to obviously remove. It threads. So you just take it out and put your Fulmer glass eye in, and you're good to go. So that's the first upgrade that you're going to do to make this more screen accurate. The next thing that you want to do is take a look at these pins on the side. In a lot of the replicas, the standard pins are stepped. Oh, actually, these are smooth. Let me see if I have any stepped pins. I actually don't, I'm afraid. Sorry about that. All 4 of my Graflexes have smooth pins. But if you look at them, these just look like one long rod. All of them. And that is going to be accurate for A New Hope. There's a different type which has like a step, and I wish I had one. I'm sorry about that. I can't scrub, but when you see it, you'll know the difference. But basically, yours should look like this for A New Hope. They should be smooth. Again, you can purchase these at the Graflex shop. I'm not sure if anyone else sells them individually. And they're just an extra step for added accuracy. So Fulmer eye and smooth pins. Moving on down with the clamp. You want your clamp for A New Hope to be facing, if you're looking at if you take the bunny ears to be 12 o'clock and you're looking away from it, so if you're looking from the pommel side to the bunny ears at 12 o'clock, the clamp is going to be rotated to 9 o'clock with the lever pointing up. Compared to every other Graflex, you can see it's the reverse. The lever is pointing down and it's at 3 o'clock. So only A New Hope had the clamp rotated this way. What you also want to do with your clamp is ensure that it has the Graflex stamp visible. Some clamp replicas are plain and that is not accurate for A New Hope. You then want to get your bubble strip replica and place it in between. You might have to cut it or trim it or modify it a little bit so it sits in between rather than underneath the clamp rails, under the sort of the shoulders. If you can see what I mean here, it's right in between. And that usually allows the lever to stay sort of partially open like this. And that is also accurate for A New Hope. You can obviously close it down all the way if you prefer the look, like aesthetically. That's not a problem, but in most of the still photographs of this prop, the lever is sort of partially open like this. It may have been broken during production, we don't really know. Still on the clamp, the offside bar, not the lever bar, but the other bar, has this stamping here, known as the RAF stamping. And you can get this done from Wanawanga. You can take this apart and send him that bar and he will stamp it for a fee, or you can buy one that's pre-stamped from him as well. These are all A New Hope accuracy mods. Moving on down to the grip section, you're going to need 7 grips running from top to bottom and touching the clamp like that. These 7 grips can be either idealized 92 millimeters with 30-degree angles on the top and bottom, or you can go one step further and get them about 100 millimeters. Usually they're uncut, and you cut them yourself. And the reason why you would want to do that is if you're going for extreme accuracy, they're different lengths. So some of them are 93, some are 94, and some are 95 millimeters, I believe. All of this information can be found at Wanawanga on his blueprints. The grips also, I would highly recommend the Wanawanga. They're the most accurate replicas. You can also get them from Gino or Todd's. Those are also very good alternatives, but are harder to find these days. For A New Hope, I would highly recommend that you use one of these grip guides. This is from Wanawanga. This makes it a lot easier to line up. Anything with 7 grips, I tend to use a grip guide. With 6, you can kind of eyeball it. This is very easy to use. You just slip it on like that. So they're all numbered. And you consult, it even has lengths here. So it's quite easy to use it this way once you've cut them and you've angled them. And how to secure them, you can either use epoxy, E6000. My personal preference is double-sided 3M tape. It's easy to apply, it's nice and secure, it's very, very easy to remove should you mess up. It doesn't leave any sticky residue behind. So once you've secured the grips, you can then move on to the pommel. And you want this clip that holds a D-ring roughly opposite to the bubble strip. Again, if you've used a grip guide, this will align it for you. You can see here, these 2 holes are for these rivets, and that big cutout is for the D-ring. And that shows you where the clamp is. It says clamp. So you can line it up with the middle of the clamp and then use this to secure the clip. Again, there are 2 choices for this clip. There's an idealized sort of symmetrical one, and there's this wonky screen accurate one. Both available from Wanawanga. And they come with the D-ring. And finally, you have 6 rivets. There's 2 over here that are 3 millimeters. And there are 4 here, sort of pointing to these 2. There's 2 on here that are 3 millimeters, and 2 are here that are smaller, they're 2 millimeters. With rivets, you have a choice. Again, you can either drill holes and pop them in with a rivet gun. This is not my personal preference because it's very, very easy to mess up, and rivet guns can be a little bit finicky, and if it goes in, it doesn't go in all the way, or it tilts, or the rivet breaks, then you could be in trouble. My preferred method is always to cut them down, cut the rivets, cut them down so they're nice and flush. This takes a little bit more time, but it is much safer. And then you just glue them on. I've done this for all 6 rivets. If you're going to pop rivets, it's certainly easier to do it here. But I don't know about drilling the actual flash handle here. But anyway, so that sums up the conversion of the Graflex A New Hope. So very, very quickly, just to recap: smooth pins, Fulmer glass eye, clamp oriented with the lever pointing up, bubble strip in between the clamp shoulders, stamp sidebar, Graflex stamping, 7 grips, roughly 92 millimeters with 30-degree angles, a clip holding a D-ring with a pair of 3mm rivets, and some handle rivets here. And that's it for A New Hope. Let's move on to Empire Strikes Back. You can clearly see that they look really, really different. So we'll start again at the top. The pins are exactly the same. So if you get stepped pins, you want to change them to smooth pins. On the top, again, you have the red button. Now you'll notice here that the beer tab is missing. This beer tab will almost certainly be present when you buy a replica, so you will have to take that off. If it is a vintage, then you will have to file that off from the inside and pull it out carefully because it's riveted in, trying to avoid scratching it. If it's a replica, most of these are sort of threaded and easy to remove. So you have to remove that rivet or pin, whatever it is. There's a little washer underneath as well, you don't need that either. And the beer tab. You keep the red button on. And then underneath, instead of a glass eye or a Fulmer glass eye, you have to have a second red button identical to the one on top. And you will usually have to buy this separately. And you can get these anywhere. Graflex shop, KR sabers, Roman props, etc. Moving down to the clamp area. As I said before, this is the reverse orientation. Bunny ears are 12 o'clock, you're looking away from them. So this is going to be at 3 o'clock with the lever pointing down. The lever is now closed all the way down. As you can see, there's no Graflex stamping on this one. It is covered with a thin strip of a sort of a chrome tape. And you can get this pre-cut from Wonawonga to the right dimensions. And you literally just peel the back and stick it on. Do this nice and slowly. Make sure that they're parallel with these lines here, so it's not sort of wonky or tilted. They're fairly forgiving though, so if you mess up, you can back up a little bit and readjust it. I like to start here, so it's sort of parallel to this, and sort of work my way around. So it's an adhesive that covers the Graflex stamping. You don't want to get, well, you could actually have a, if your replica comes with a plain clamp that's unstamped, it doesn't matter, but I would still stick this adhesive on top just to make it look more accurate. Instead of a bubble strip, now we have a PCB board. This, I think, came from an Otis elevator board. Well, not this one, but the original prop. But this is a replica clamp card from Sloth Furnace. I would highly recommend Sloth Furnace for the ESB card. It is by far the most accurate. They're all also available at Wonawonga, Skywalker, lots of other places do them. They're all good, decent clamp cards, but the most accurate to the original Otis board is Sloth Furnace. It should have that vintage greenish background with sort of these rectangular gold traces and the silver solder marks that are sort of off center. Some are to the side, some are in the center, some to the left, some to the right. That's how it should look. This goes underneath and not in between, like A New Hope. It goes underneath the shoulders or the rails, and the lever closes all the way down. One thing I forgot to mention about A New Hope, let's go back to that lever, is that there's no square washer underneath. Yours will come with a square washer. You'll have to remove that. So you'll have to unscrew the lever, take out the washer, and screw the lever back on. That's accurate for A New Hope only. Everything else has the washer intact. Let's look at it. Right there, there's a square washer. Okay, so that's it for the clamp area. There's no stamping, obviously. You just leave it as it is. The stamping is only for A New Hope. Grips are much easier. There are 6 of them. And they have this cut out notch on the bottom for the screws. You can get these from Wonawanga, again. They're pre-cut. And you could probably just line these up, just eyeball them. I have the so-called wampa alignment, but most people do the idealized, where this top grip goes right in the middle of that clamp like that, one on the opposite side, and then 2 sort of crisscross that way. I'll show you what I mean on the TFA, because that's idealized. So one goes in the middle of the clamp, one directly opposite to that, and then if that's like 12 o'clock, that might be like 2 o'clock, so 4 o'clock, 6, 8, 10, something like that roughly. So that is the idealized look. This is just for the Wampa Cave scene. So yeah, these notches are for these Phillips head screws that are black, and these are again sold at Wonawanga. Now you could drill into the flash and put them in, but I always prefer again to cut them so they're flush and stick them on with glue. Wonawanga is recently also started selling these screws that are pre-cut, so they're like false screw, just screw heads basically, so it's even easier. You don't need to mess around with cutting the threads off. So yeah, 6 grips, notches, and 6 Phillips head screws. In the bottom, instead of a regular clip like that, we have a cobalt. Again, you can get this from Wonawanga. This has a pair of larger rivets. They are about 4 millimeters. And a D-ring. Once again, you can, if you're confident, you can drill 2 holes, line them up, pop the rivets in, and that will be obviously more secure. I normally cut them down and glue them on, and then I just glue this entire assembly onto the saber, because at the end of the day, if I want to change it or move it slightly, then it's reversible. So that's it for ESB. So to sum up again, smooth pins, missing beer tab, red button here, another red button there. Moving on down, we have the chrome tape covering the Graflex logo. We have the clamp oriented with the lever pointing down. No stamping. We have a sloth furnace or any other alternative that you find with a green background and these rectangular gold traces that sits underneath. We have 6 grips that are cut straight with no 30-degree angle, and they have these notches there for 6 Phillips head screws. And we have a cobalt on the bottom with a D-ring and 2 large 4mm rings, or rivets, excuse me. And that's it for ESB. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.